Climbing the online ranked ladder of Pokémon Champions can sometimes feel impossible. There are just so many different teams, strategies, and decisions to account for that it can be difficult to know where you even need to begin to improve. As someone who has spent a lot of time on ladder myself, I've found that there were a handful of things that really changed how I approach Pokémon Champions and helped me to finish in the top 1000 of every season so far. And I recently even made the climb all the way to Champion tier. I've identified 6 core concepts that have helped me climb the ladder each season, and in this video I'm going to break down each one of them with each concept building into the next, so that hopefully you can begin your climb to the very top. Whether you're an experienced player looking for a fresh perspective or you're just beginning your competitive Pokemon journey for the first time, I think there's something here for everyone. So to start off, I've broken the 6 concepts that I'm going to be covering on how to climb the Pokemon Champions ladder into 3 different sections, and this first section will be what you do before the battle, and the 2 concepts we're going to be covering are team archetypes and understanding your team. So to kick it off, let's go ahead and get started with team archetypes, and the question you should be asking yourself is, what is their team trying to do? Now, team archetypes are really the building block to all of competitive Pokemon, in my opinion. Not being able to identify what a team is trying to accomplish on preview really sets you behind. So I wanted to start here. If you feel like you already have a good grasp on this, no worries, we're not going to stay on this too long, but I wanted to make sure I ran through all of the common team archetypes and what they accomplish. Team archetypes are essentially a game plan or strategy that a team is built around in order to succeed. So the first team archetype we're going to be looking at is balance, and the idea of balance is that you have a good spread of defense and offensive synergy that allows you to make really safe pivots, and you're just overall pretty flexible in a game because of those synergies. As you can see with this team, they have a fire, water, grass core, which is historically one of the most common and efficient cores because they all 3 complement each other so well. On top of that, Sinistcha and Incineroar love to switch. Like, they are the 2 premier Pokemon of switching because Sinistcha can heal its teammates for 25% thanks to its ability Hospitality, and Incineroar has the ability Intimidate, making it great for switching in on physical attackers. Our next archetype is Weather, which tries to dominate with a field effect. So for this team specifically, we are talking about the rain weather that is set by Pelipper. So this would be speed and damage boost for Mega Swampert thanks to Swift Swim, its ability which doubles its speed in the rain. It actually helps out defensively for Corviknight because of the rain weather reducing fire damage by 50%. And for Dragonite, which likes to run the move Hurricane, but Hurricane has a horrible accuracy unless it's raining. Teams like this use the rain to enable pretty much the whole squad, but you'll see some hybrid teams as well. Next up is Hyper Offense, and in the reverse situation of balance, Hyper Offense is looking to take KOs early and fast. Whether it's going for a trade or just going for an immediate 2-turn sweep with something like Goldango or Floette, they're looking for immediate speed control and immediate maximum damage. And that's what you can see from this team. There's only 1 actual support on this squad. Everybody else on this team is looking to deal damage. Next up, we have Tailwind, which, as you can tell, the last team also had Tailwind, and this is where I want to say and preface that these squads do often have hybrid archetypes, so keep that in mind. Tailwind essentially is just, you're looking to double your speed. You're going for speed control as your win con, and you're trying to get these slower Pokemon to be fast. Pokemon like Sylveon or Basculegion, you don't have to put the Choice Scarf item on them because you can set Tailwind. And in the reverse, we have Trick Room, which does the opposite, where you make the slow Pokemon fast and the fast Pokemon slow. As you can see, this team uses Farigiraf and 5 very slow Pokemon, but very offensively oriented, so that if you are able to set Trick Room, Pokemon like Torkoal, Sylveon, and Blastoise can all do massive spread damage against your opponent. And finally, we have Tail Room, which allows for slow and fast options. As we've been pointing out, we have Whimsicott and Farigiraf for both of those on this team, as well as 2 Megas, a slow Mega with Mega Mawile, and Charizard, which has a decent speed. It's not the fastest, but it's able to operate in Tailwind. So in this regard, this gives them the most amount of options to be able to slow it down or speed it up depending on what their opponents do. And as I mentioned before, these can all be very hybrided. These teams do not mean that like you're always going to face a solely balanced team or a solely weather team. Like, it could be a weather Trick Room, it could be a hyper offense Trick Room, it could be a weather balance. The important thing that you get out of this is to be able to identify what a team is trying to do and how they're trying to win, whether that's with double speed, with Trick Room, with balance and flexible positioning, or with immediate pressure or weather control. And moving on, next we have now concept number 2, which is understanding your team. What is your team trying to do? It's not good enough just to look at the #1 winning tournament team and to say, I'm just going to pick that up and I'm not going to think about it because this team is so good. No, you really need to look at a team and digest it. You need to understand, what is this team trying to accomplish? So every time I use a new team, what am I trying to do with this squad to win games? So for this example, we are going to use the sand team that I used to climb to champion tier and go through the motions of what is the team archetype of this squad? What are we trying to accomplish? So first up, the obvious one, we have the sand weather effect. Tyranitar sets the sand, and Excadrill benefits because of its ability Sand Rush, giving it a 2x speed. So we already know we have weather control. Next up, we have 4 Pokemon that only run offense. This team is meant to be aggressive. We get a speed boost for Excadrill to attack. We have Life Orb for Goldango for bonus damage. Venusaur is here to run stab and coverage, and Tyranitar is also running the Scarf to be a little bit faster than normal Tyranitar. And finally, our only support moves on this entire team is Tailwind, Icy Wind, and Haze. So we do have a support Pokemon, but it's a slow support with Milotic. And Milotic is actually more here for the competitive boost to dissuade our opponents from using Intimidate, while Staraptor does have a slow quote-unquote Tailwind, where it's not Prankster setup, it's not Prankster boosted, but you can gain speed control that way. Really what we can glean from this squad, and what I would say the 4 main points of this team are weather control, offensive balance. This is probably a more hyper offensive team, but because it does have good bulky Pokemon that have great balance in their defensive synergies, between Venusaur being a great switch for fighting and Staraptor being a great switch for ground, stuff like that, where the team can pivot. Like you don't have to live and die by the lead you have. You are able to make some pretty safe switches depending on the 4 Pokemon you brought and still deliver really fast and strong offensive options. And then finally, it's a dual Mega Core. As you notice, we have Mega Venusaur and we have Mega Staraptor, which means that every single game we are going to need to decide which Mega option we want to bring. It can often limit you where if I bring Venusaur, I probably can't bring Staraptor, or if I bring Staraptor, I probably can't bring Venusaur, but that's not always the case. Keep that in mind. That is an important detail to know. And I think now that we've got our understanding of our team, it is time to move on to the next 2 concepts. And before we move on to the next concept, I wanted to give a quick shout out to Pokédoku, who I got a chance to collab with for today's puzzle and on today's video. If you haven't played Pokédoku before, it's basically a daily Pokemon trivia game where you try to fill out a grid using Pokemon that match each category. I actually created today's puzzle, which is only available on the date of this video posting, so if you want to test out your Pokemon knowledge and see how you do on my grid, go head over to Pokédoku and check it out now. Alright, we are now to the during the battle section, and these 2 concepts are team preview and positioning. So looking first at team preview, the question you need to be asking yourself is, what is my plan for this game? You need to know what they're trying to do, and you need to know what you're trying to do. So we're going to bring concepts 1 and 2 together, and we're going to use an example of a game I actually played. And I think this example works perfect because I was the one that made the decision on the fly. I can now break down my thoughts in post, so let's get after it. So what we first need to do is identify their team archetypes and their biggest threats. We already can see that they have a Rain Core. Politoed will set the rain weather effect for Swampert, who has the ability Swift Swim when it's Mega Evolved, and Electro Shot off of our Caledon will make it barrel out of control if we don't do something about it early. So our biggest threats as of now are Weather Control, Mega Swampert, and our Caledon. Moving on to the next core, we can see they have a Perish Trap mode as well. Politoed is actually still an option here because it does have a potential to run Perish Song. Some of them do, some of them don't. Incineroar applies Intimidate and Fake Out, giving Mega Gengar a good chance to set Perish Song from the start, and Mega Gengar is the Perish Trap ace in the hole because it has the ability Shadow Tag, which means you cannot switch out when it's on the field, and it commonly is the one setting Perish Song. The idea with Perish Trap is that they fake you out turn 1, they have a safe Perish Song setup, then they double protect, and then they hard pivot, they switch out Gengar, and then they Parting Shot Incineroar, get Gengar back in so you can't switch the next turn, and they protect that final turn, KOing both your Pokemon in 3 turns. So now our biggest threats are not just Weather Control, Mega Swampert, and our Caledon. We've also added Mega Gengar and Perish Trap Stall. And as you've noticed, Politoed Politoed was on both of these team archetypes, which is a huge indication of what they're going to be bringing in a game. Because Politoed is usable on both archetypes, our game plan must account for Politoed. And this actually puts us in a great position because when you're looking at 6 Pokemon, you have to pick the 4 they're going to bring. And now this team specifically has 2 modes that rely on 1 Pokemon to also be there. So we've already determined one of the 4 that are coming. So we've already gotten ourselves into a position where we've deduced what they want to do, and we've already identified 1 Pokemon that has to be there for both of their cores to work. So now we have a knowledge advantage on them. Part 2, it's time to come up with our game plan. It's time to look at our team, and based off what we just deduced from their previous team, how are we going to beat that? So we need to start beating the biggest threats. That's the whole reason why we lined out all the biggest threats. And my first thought is weather control. We have a sand core to make it so that they cannot use their rain mode with Politoed. That upsets Archaludon, that upsets Mega Swampert, and that upsets Politoed. But even more so is the threat that the sand core does to Mega Gengar as well. Thankfully, Gengar is a ghost and poison type, meaning that Tyranitar and Excadrill both threaten it. Excadrill in this case is actually faster thanks to Sand Rush if we keep weather control. Even with Intimidate, both of these Pokemon can threaten 2-hit knockouts on Gengar, meaning that they're not able to stay in and get their 3 turns they need to set Perish Trap, because if I hit them once, they're now in critical danger. This is really, in my opinion, one of the strongest leads into Mega Gengar and Perish Trap because you're so offensively threatening. So now we got a check mark into those 3 threats. Now we need to deal with Mega Swampert, Archaludon, and Politoed, and how we're going to start doing that is dealing with Mega Swampert and Archaludon with 1 Pokemon, which is Staraptor. When Mega Evolved, it gets a stab fighting move to hit Archaludon for super effective damage. On top of that, you are intimidating Mega Swampert, who is a physical attacker, and you're immune to its stab ground moves, forcing it to click water into Staraptor, and it makes it a great switch for Tyranitar or Excadrill, because if they try to go for Earthquake, you can protect and switch one out, and now you have Staraptor intimidating Mega Swampert and not taking any damage on top of that. Importantly too, Archaludon will not be able to use Electroshot onto Staraptor as long as you keep weather control in your back pocket, which is what makes these 3 so good together. So now we've accounted for 5 of our big threats, but we still don't really have a counter for Politoed, which is where Venusaur comes in. And Venusaur gives us a little double dip, which is nice because it gives us another coverage for Mega Swampert, which is a big deal, and it gives us counters into Politoed specifically. Having that grass type move that can hit Politoed, hit Mega Swampert, we now have covered all of our problems, and we now have a team of 4 that feels like we could hit everything on the squad. We've identified all the biggest threats, and we've identified our biggest options to counter all of those threats. So if they go with either core, we have options into all of it. So now that we've come up with our game plan at Team Preview, we've identified our opponent's archetypes and how they're going to win, and now we've gotten our own game plan, it's time to move on to the most critical thing of playing the game, in my opinion, which is positioning. And that can basically be boiled down to, what is your win condition? A win condition is basically the strategy or the Pokemon that you need in order to win a game. And that can change throughout a game, which is what makes it so difficult, because your win condition on turn 1 may not be the win condition you have on turn 10. So looking further, as I said, it's the planner Pokemon you need to win. And there's a lot of things that kind of boil into finding the win condition. So I just want to quickly, it's more than this, but I wanted to quickly go over just like core concepts and ideas of what this even means. Pivoting versus protecting a Pokemon. Are you going to stay in and protect and then stall out a turn? Or are you going to pivot, take a hit, but then have an offensive advantage the next turn? You then have sacrificing Pokemon, which I do often. Say that you're in an end game where your opponent has weather control, you have your weather setter in the front, you've lost the weather, you know whatever Pokemon you switch in is going to die, but at the behest of getting weather control back. You sacrifice a Pokemon to gain a tactical advantage on the field. 3 is also just understanding the timers for current conditions and how you need to get to the end of them, or how you need to utilize your timers. Knowing what your opponent needs in order to win while Trick Room is up, for example, or how many turns you need to stall in order to get Trick Room off the field so that you can win now. And this actually has a lot to do with sacrificing Pokemon as well. If you can't reliably double protect, if you don't feel comfortable with it, this is where you might have to switch a Pokemon in to get destroyed, and then you can switch your other Pokemon back in, use protect again, and stall your turn. It's really about being cognizant of what the field effects are and how you need to use them to your advantage, or stall them so your opponent can't use them to their advantage and get to the end game. And that kind of boils into weather or speed control essentially as well. Am I able to get the weather I need to win? Am I able to get the Tailwind or Trick Room that I need to win? And knowing how you can can get to those positions and how you can establish speed control or weather control to win an endgame is a part of the whole journey. That all really boils down to finding your win condition. And so to really go through this, I wanted to use another example with that same previous game where we did the preview. So now we've identified our opponent's team archetype, we've identified our team, we understand how it works. We've now gotten the 4 Pokemon we want at team preview, and we've won at team preview, and now we're in the positioning phase, and here is the current board state. As you can see, we have Venusaur and Mega Staraptor across from Politoed and Archaludon, and the rain is up. And to give even more context for this position, let's look at the current team setup, what my Pokemon look like in the back and what my opponent's Pokemon look like in the back. I actually still have all 4 of my Pokemon. Excadrill still has Focus Sash, and Tyranitar is still at full health. My opponent has already lost Vivillon, but their Mega Swampert hasn't lost that much HP either, and it's in the back. So if they can keep weather control, they can dominate me with both Archaludon and Swampert, because Archaludon in this current position is threatening an Electro Shot into Staraptor. Staraptor cannot KO Archaludon currently, so I am now in danger at this exact moment with Staraptor, but Venusaur is in a really prime spot. Because they lost Vivillon, their only switch for Politoed is Swampert, which makes Venusaur a really strong Pokemon right now. So I want to ask you this: how do you win this game? It seems like a pretty confident position, but there's a lot of ways to lose this game. Well, let's go ahead and look at the clip. I'll run it back right now of how I went and played this endgame. So like I said before, Venusaur effectively has the Politoed pinned. The Politoed, if it switches out, it takes a 4-time super effective from Venusaur into Swampert. So knowing this position, knowing that I have the advantage with Venusaur and that Staraptor is actually being threatened right now, I decide to switch out Staraptor for Tyranitar, thus securing the weather control. My opponent actually opts to click Protect on Politoed. They're hoping that I'm not going to switch for weather control, but they do click Electroshot on Archaludon, which puts them in a horrific spot because the rain is gone, and so now they have to spend a turn charging. And which makes that even worse for them is that their Archaludon is now pinned. Cannot move Archaludon because it's stuck charging. It has to use Electroshot the next turn, which gives me a free KO. I can freely double it and not have to worry about it, and I pick up the KO. And then my opponent switches in Swampert. They now have no way to win the Weather War. I have now officially won the Weather War. I have found my win condition, and my opponent does indeed forfeit. And that's kind of the idea of how you need to break down each game. You need to see what the board state looks like, what your opponent is trying to accomplish, which is weather control and taking out Staraptor, versus what I'm trying to accomplish, where I need to make sure that Staraptor is only ever on the field in front of Archaludon when it cannot click Electroshot. All right, moving on. Next, we are now to our after the battle category. These are 2 concepts that you do post battle. So let's check out number 5, which is review and reflect, where you need to ask yourself, what just happened? It's not about winning or losing. It's about why did you win? Why did you lose? Did you have a bad lead? Did you have a wrong read? Did you have bad positioning? Did your opponent outplay you? You need to be able to digest that you did lose and for what reasons. Go and look at specific turns. If you can record, I know Champions, they need to add a record feature because it's really nice. Thankfully, because I record my games, I'm able to do this pretty often, but you'll see me on stream even on the fly after a bad loss. I will sit there and I will digest turns, be like, hey, did I make a bad switch here? Should I have attacked here? Was I too aggressive here? Was I too safe here? Did I not bring the right 4? Was my lead wrong? It's important to just determine what happened, determine what went wrong. And then for the same reason, I don't think you should just say, I won, I'm better. You need to know why you won. Did you make the right switches? Did you bring the right 4? Did you have a good lead because you deduced your opponent's archetypes well? Did you identify your win condition and execute? It is so easy to win or lose a game on one turn, and it is so easy to take for granted something that went well or something that went bad. And so my general advice, this is going to be kind of a short section. My general advice is in 3 parts. Do not be afraid to lose. The ladder is thankfully reset very often. Where you're at this month has no inclination of where you're going to be at next month. Where you're at today doesn't even matter for where you're at tomorrow, and where you're at this morning doesn't even matter for where you're at this afternoon. You can climb, you can fall, you can win, you can lose, and the whole process is doing it over and over and over again until you get comfortable with everything you're doing, with understanding exactly what you need to do to win, with learning that, hey, that didn't work, that lead is really bad, or this team doesn't do well into these teams, how can I adjust? Learning your matchups is a process of losing. Next up, and it's something that I said earlier, take accountability for losses. Blaming RNG, blaming cheese. I know I do it as well. I'm not trying to abstain myself from this criticism because it's something I need to remind myself of every day. But blaming other things outside of your control on why you lost, if it's always somebody else's fault or it's always some other mechanic's fault, you'll never learn past that. You will have now put yourself in a box and you say, if I lose, it's because of something that I can't control. Whereas in Pokemon, the best players consistently win because they're the best players. They don't just consistently win because of RNG, because of cheese. They consistently win because they are constantly playing, they're constantly losing, and they're constantly improving and reviewing their games and learning what to do next. And then finally, you gotta know when it's time to take a break. Pokemon, as I said in number 2 with RNG and cheese, it can be extremely frustrating, especially in a closed team sheet best of 1 environment. And I think this point 3 is actually probably the most important thing I'll tell you right now in this whole section, because it's so easy to tilt and just go on a diabolical lose streak. If you get mad and you just start rage queuing, you are going to start dropping games because you're not concentrating anymore. You're not focused on your mentals. You're not focused on the game plan. You're just kind of throwing stuff at the board and it's making you more and more mad. So knowing when it's time to just get off the game, log off, go touch some grass is extremely vital. I have swaths of this game where I just get up and I don't play for a whole week. I'll just stop playing for an entire week because I did so bad that I'm like, I need to recalibrate my entire brain. I need to just like take my eyes off the game, go figure it out, and then move on from there. So I think it's a very important skill to know when I'm just not doing well right now and I need to work on it and I need to move on. And that finally leads us to our last section, keeping up with the meta, where you need to ask yourself, what is everyone using? Honestly, as silly as this is, Pokemon is again a game where knowledge is power. If you can get any kind of knowledge gap on your opponent where you know something that they don't know, or your opponent's using a very meta team and you know all the builds already and you're using something that's a little off kilter and they know nothing, you already have a distinct advantage. But you can only keep up with the meta if you actually go and take the time to look at all of it. Keeping up with the meta is as easy as watching videos from big YouTubers. People like Cybertron VGC, The Battle Room, Joe UX9, and Justin Tang are all incredible players. Not only are they incredible players, but they make incredible content. They keep up with the meta. They show videos on every single new meta team, every tournament winning team, and they do excellent breakdowns. They do gameplay videos. There is such a huge wealth of information and it's at your fingertips for free. You can go see all this today after this video. I highly recommend keeping up with all 4 of these channels specifically. There are other channels out there, but these ones I feel like keep up with the meta relevance and meta teams more than I think most other channels are on this platform. So keeping your finger on the pulse, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't work. If you see a team that you saw featured on their video and you're like, oh man, that team's really good, it's a great way to get ahead of the curve, because when teams get popular, a lot of people start bringing them, and if you can be ahead of the knowledge curve and know how to beat them yourself, that's already half the battle. And then finally, keep up with the data. So not just tournament winning teams, not just watching videos. There are websites out there that track the usage rates of Pokemon, their common moves, common items, common builds, and that'd be like stuff like Pikalytics, LabMouse, Sylphscope, and Limitless. Limitless specifically keeps up with tournaments, and they show you tournament builds so you can see which teams are winning tournaments every day. Small grassroots ones all the way up to huge 6,000 person tournaments. LabMouse does a great job of breaking down data from those tournaments as well and giving it into information that's parsable for whatever category, showing you trends, stuff like that. Sylphscope keeps you up with ratings as well as usage rates, and it has a bunch of rental teams on it, which is awesome. And finally, Pikalytics, which is my favorite, recently had a huge overhaul where they now have tournament teams on there with builds. They have, in my opinion, the strongest usage rates list. They break it down by in-game ladder. They break it down by Pokemon Showdown. I just think all of these resources between the YouTube channels and the websites, this is how you keep up with the meta. This is how you understand what the trends are, and this is how you stay ahead of the curve. Then you're winning more Pokemon games every day. And finally, to end this video, I just want to thank you all for watching. If you learned anything from this video, please drop a subscribe, drop a comment, drop a like, and drop a hype. It helps out a ton. It really means the world to me. I also have a Discord, link will be in the description. And I just want to thank you all for stopping by and watching this video. And I hope that it helps you climb to whatever goal you're doing, whether that's Master Ball 4, 3, 2, 1, or even Champion Tier. I hope that this can help. And there will be more in-depth video breakdowns in the future. This was just my big overview on the 6 concepts that I use to win Pokemon games. So thank you all. I will catch you on the next one.